Hello and welcome to the Drop-In, a podcast from the Reykjavík Grapevine. Today we're going to talk to Larry Jaffee. That's
right.
Correctly pronounced?
Yes.
Larry is the co-founder of Thermal Beets, and we want to dive into that venture today.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show, Larry, and thanks for dropping in.
Talk.
We wanted to talk to you immediately because I saw your presentation at the Iceland Airwaves Music Festival, and I stood directly in front of, I think for the 30th time in my life, David Frick, who had squeezed in behind to see your conference, which is kind of one of the your presentation, which is one of the talking points of the conference. So you're introducing sustainable record making, and you're bringing it to Iceland specifically. Can you tell me about the Thermal Beets presentation?
Sure. Well, I should actually say that it all started in September 2022. I was coming back from a Making Vinyl Europe conference, which I co-founded this B2B event, which was designed to celebrate the revitalized record manufacturing globally. But at that point, there were only 35 pressing plants. And at this conference, it was right outside of Frankfurt, it was discussed about plant-based material. And I was thinking to myself, well, this is something new. They were already talking about sustainability and lowering the carbon footprint of records. But I was like, 100% fossil fuel free. That's kind of interesting. So I'm coming back via Amsterdam, and I took an Icelandair flight, and I'm listening to these musicians who were not Björk or Sigurðarson.
Right.
And those were basically all I knew. Yeah. And I was also familiar with Sugar Cubes.
Right.
I bought their first CD when it was released. But and I was like, I'm going genre to genre to genre, and they're all great. And I'm thinking, well, if there's any place in the world that might need a record factory, it might be Iceland.
Yeah.
At the time, I was up for a Fulbright fellowship to basically research sustainable record manufacturing in the Netherlands.
Oh.
That's why I came back from Amsterdam. I was going to be teaching at researching and teaching at two universities in Eindhoven.
Okay.
So I was a finalist, and then I found out I didn't get it. So then I was like, you know what? Let me go back to this Iceland idea.
Yeah.
And then a few months later, I was on a panel with Gudmundur Isfeld from RPM Records, and I'm looking at his bio, and it says he was born in Iceland and a curate. And I said to him, you ever think about building a factory in Iceland? And he says, yeah, I think about it. I already ship 1,000 records there every month.
Yeah.
So then a few months after that, we were at Making Vinyl again, in this time in Holland. And I cornered Kevin DaCosta, who's at that point had built 24 factories around the world. He worked for Viral, which was one of the equipment suppliers previously, but now he's an independent contractor. And I said to Kevin, what do you think about building a factory in Iceland? He said to me, you're not going to believe this. When I saw you 4 months ago in Minneapolis, he had 24 hours to spend in Reykjavík, went to the record shops, went to the nightclubs. Says, I have the same idea you have. And then he says, and by the way, I just became technical director to Evolution Music, which was the company where I heard the presentation about the plant-based material.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
So then I said, I shared what I talked to Gummy about. Mm-hmm. And he said, Gummy also said that 1 out of 3 Icelanders are musicians.
Yeah.
And that might be a little bit of a factoid, but
might be undercounting.
But I've been in some meetings, and I take
there could be more.
Yeah. Informal. But he also said that they're in 5 bands, and they all love records. So I was sold, and then I did a bunch of research and found out how many music schools there are in Iceland, and I was like, per capita, I don't think there's a better place to do something like this.
Vinyl plant, yeah.
But I mean, the way we look at the the company Thermal Beets Records is that, we're hoping to like make a big enough noise that we could help export the music scene as well. Not only the stuff we press, but stuff that we reissue and
Okay.
or release.
Yeah, the presentation was fascinating because it turns out with plant-based material, use a little bit less energy to make each record, so then you can make a fully environmentally friendly record in Iceland, because essentially because you're using beets, right?
That's right.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
And you're using the local electricity, which is
Right. You can use electricity instead of apparently in Denmark, Gummi, when he makes for RPM records, he has to use diesel of all
Diesel?
things. You have to use, because you need so much energy usually for vinyl to press down.
Well, that's using the old boiler. Record production really hasn't changed that much since 1888 when Emil Berliner actually went head-to-head with Thomas Edison. Edison had his cylinders, but Berliner had the circular record.
Okay.
Now, those were made out of shellac, so there were some differences in terms of, the materials. But,
Right.
the same sort of way that you had to heat, using a boiler, the material. And you're right. It takes a lot less energy to melt the sugar beets material, which was developed by an English company called Evolution Music. They've been working on this for 6 years. They own the patent. They've just recently joined forces with two processing companies that create the compound.
Okay.
So one's going to do the color records, and the other one's going to do the black records that they divided up.
We have an example of the beat record, I think, here, right?
sorry. We have
a proof of concept.
we have this 2024 Iceland Airwaves. How should we phrase this?
Was for the 25th anniversary.
And we have the camera right there if we want to.
So, here's the artwork, and here's the beat vinyl,
Which looks exactly like.
which looks
and
exactly
sounds
like
exactly
vinyl.
Like, yeah.
Plays on the same turntables and record players.
Same depth of cut. Everything.
Yeah, and Kevin's the only person in the world who knows how to retrofit the molds to accommodate this special material.
Sorry.
No. I just wanted to show that. Yeah. Sorry. I mean, this seems like such a technical discussion, but it was amusing because your background before going into record production was you were like me. You're journalism. Actually, we have the same overlap because we were both former journalism students and teachers in New York City, right? And so when I went to see your presentation, the room was full of major journalists from New York, right?
Well, I've been after David for a while. I've actually known him for 25 years. I used to see him on the subway, and I landed an interview with Lou Reed, and I knew David was very close to Lou, and I asked him for pointers on how to handle Lou.
Oh, how do you handle Lou Reed?
So he said stick with technology, which was the same thing that Lenny Kaye, who's a friend, he also said that.
Okay.
So I followed the game plan and worked great. I mean, it was, they say you can't meet your idols. I spent 25 years trying to beat Lou, and then it finally happened. So that was pretty amazing. Yeah.
And it didn't go badly.
It did not go badly.
Wow.
Yeah.
That never happens almost.
I caught him on the right day.
He tore a bit of a path through Iceland when he was here. One of the most amazing shows I've ever seen was Lou Reed here, but many of the worst interviews I've ever seen were the attempts to interview Lou Reed here.
Oh yeah, they went horribly. The show was
that
great.
Grapevine too?
Didn't we just like not do that?
I steered clear. As you said, I don't want to meet my idols, and I thought it would just be a disaster, and I didn't want to pour fuel on that fire. I did not expect Lou to be in a performing state of mind, and I was caught so off guard. It just was something I kept personal. I just never covered it, actually.
Yeah, no, it's funny. When I was in college, I was talking with Arista Records. They were going to give me the directions to his house in New Jersey. And then the day of, they canceled it. So then about 5 years later, I'm in Boston on a business trip. Lou was doing a record signing for New Sensations. And the line ended right in front of me, so I didn't get to talk to him then. Once I was walking on 14th Street, and he's walking towards me, and I'm walking, towards him, and I nod to him, and then he nodded back, and I figured, quit while you're ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
14th Street is the place to see them. I guess.
Yeah. So, but it finally happened that I met him first at Barnes and Noble. The Raven had just come out, and
okay.
Yeah. But getting back to David, so David and I were sitting next to each other at City Winery, and Robert Hitchcock was playing.
Okay.
And so I told him I was going to. I just came back from Iceland, and we started this company, and maybe he'd be interested. So he goes, I love Iceland. I'm going there next week. And I said, well, my partners are going to be putting out this record there. I had to teach actually in New York, so I didn't go.
Yeah.
But I spent the week before, actually at Iceland Music, explaining to Maria, what we were planning on doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in the journalism background, again, before you started making vinyl, you are also strangely responsible for one of the more kind of celebrated books about the resurgence of vinyl, right? It's called Record Store. In fact, I have it, right? Record Store Day, the most improbable comeback of the 21st century.
Right.
In the coverage of that, is that what were the discoveries you had in constructing this book?
Well, a couple of things. I thought it was all about the limited edition records, but
you thought the comeback was all about limited edition, and and this is a conversation I have with many people: are people buying vinyl as a trophy or as something to actually get information from?
I think it depends on the demographic a little bit, but at the same time, the kids love vinyl.
Yeah.
And then they're not. There was this ridiculous survey that said 50% of the people just put the records up on the wall. That's ludicrous.
Yeah.
And I saw this actually. I had a girlfriend about 6 years ago, who she had a 15-year-old daughter. Billie Eilish was her favorite artist. Billie's debut record first came out, so I gave her. She was graduating junior high school. So her mother had just received a record player for Christmas, not by me, but her brother actually. And the kid was so excited and said, "How does this thing work?" And was mesmerized by the mechanics of seeing the record spin and sound coming out. And I think that's one of the things that's lost in the digital age, in the streaming. And actually, I was at Airwaves during the conference last week, and that was one of the things that came out, the soullessness of a algorithm picking music for you.
Oh, now we're going to accidentally talk about this other, the other presentation that caught everybody's attention at Iceland Airwaves this year was the Spotify conference.
Yeah. So this book on the on Spotify, which is out, I think was out last year.
Yeah.
Or early this year. The woman wrote that had sort of a book talk and a reading at the festival, and it was very interesting. Were you there?
No, actually, I knew about it, and I knew about her book, and I thought about actually inviting her to speak to my class. I teach a course currently called Writing About Music. I was an early adopter of Spotify. I own the publishing rights to a particular song, and as a result, I was, in 2010 or 2011, when they first came to the U.S., I was able to, become a member or subscribe. And I thought it was fantastic. I mean, it was like the jukebox at your fingertips, the world's music. I mean, at that point, but at that point, I didn't know that their economics meant that they would only really deal with the labels, and that the average musician's not really getting paid properly for the streams and so forth.
No, I mean,
the arms dealing might have caught you off guard too.
Yeah. No, but on the other hand, I mean, music discovery is why I still use it, and it's still paid for the premium subscription, because, if I think Shazam is like the best app ever made, and I still listen to over-the-air radio, including here in Reykjavík.
Right.
And if I hear a song, I hit Shazam and I find out what it is, and I listen to the whole record, and then I'll decide whether or not to buy it. And, probably about, 15 to 20% of the time I do buy the record.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's useful for discovery. I kind of loathe Spotify because I don't have the copyright to a really useful song. I have copyrights to many songs that aren't useful, I guess. So I never get much payment from them. No. I hate Spotify because, for example, if I want to go listen to, we were joking this morning, Appetite for Destruction or something, it'll say you want to listen to the deluxe edition of Appetite for Destruction with every outtake. And I was like, oh, I'm going to die right now because, yeah.
Well,
turns out I want my song selected by the artist.
Well, in preparation for my move, actually, I sold 2,000 LPs and probably 1,500 CDs. And then I kept 2,000 LPs in my 45s, and I kept, probably 200 CDs. And put those in storage. But
just the bare minimum, 2,000.
But I brought with me 80 LPs, which since I've been here in 6 weeks, I've already bought like 25 or so. And I really have to slow down.
I've turned down. You mentioned that you were at Tolftonar the other day, and I'm afraid to enter Tolftonar or what is it, Reykjavík Record Store?
That's one of them, yeah.
That's every time I look at their window, I know I can't go in because it'll cost me a lot of money.
This morning on YouTube, a Bowie track came up, and I was like, I have to get a Bowie record. I don't know which one it's going to be yet, but I'm definitely getting one.
Oh, yeah. This kind of touches on the last point I wanted to talk to you about in your visit. And again, congratulations on opening this this thermal beets record pressing plant.
In Keflavik, right?
In Keflavik, yeah, just outside Keflavik. What happened was Gummy, from RPM Records, his sister-in-law worked for a business development organization, and she said, there's this thing called the Iceland Eco Business Park, which was an abandoned aluminum smelter. That was a very controversial topic, and they probably would be interested in meeting you. So sure enough, we received a meeting. It was our first business meeting. The three of us, Kevin, Gummy, and I, came to Iceland in March 2024. We didn't know what we were getting into. At that point, it was a fact-finding mission. And every meeting we had was so positive, like, we need this. In fact, at Airwaves last week, I mentioned to President Hala that we were doing that. She goes, "That's my hometown."
And when you say President Hala, you mean the president of Iceland?
Iceland, yeah. And then I invited her to the press conference. She said I would come, but I have to be in Keflavik right at that exact time.
There also wasn't much room. It was standing room only.
I mean, this is perfect. There's like this. I have this weird anecdote that so there's a building out by Eyrarbakki in Iceland on the south coast, and it was originally built by people in the town pooling together money to build a hospital, and it failed, and it was turned into a jail by the state, and that's the way it stayed to this day. And in the case of Keflavik, you have this aluminum factory that nobody really wanted or needed, and it failed, and now you're getting something completely different.
Yeah, well, so
in a sense, I'm sorry, Hal.
No, it's also fascinating though, because Keflavik, as our friend Ragi Kjartans always says, Keflavik is the Detroit of Iceland. It's the home of rock and roll in Iceland.
But in sense, like being the absolute reverse of the jail story is that you get this building that nobody really wanted, and with something happening inside it nobody wanted, and you're turning it around.
Well, the building, the brainchild of repurposing that building is Thor Sigurðarson, chairman of Eco Business Park. Yeah, who's a big fishing industry person here. But he explained to us that 100% of the fish is repurposed that they catch. I don't know if it's the law that the entire country does that at this stage.
They try to make as much out of it as possible.
Okay, so, whereas in the U.S. You'll know this, Bart. I mean, the philosophy is, cut off the head, fillet the fish, the edible portion and throw the rest in the landfill. You know, I think.
Kind of a strip mining approach to life. Yeah.
Right. So this is one of the things that I really enjoy being in Iceland, that, you know, you take the environment very seriously. You believe climate change is real. You know, we were not pulled out of the COP agreement, and
as I was recovered in the Grapevine, and my frustration in our current issue about the Arctic Circle meeting, some of the directions that Iceland would like to go, they can't go without help from the United States, and
none is forthcoming these days.
Yeah, so they were undercut in trying to make some progress with the COP agreement. Yeah.
Now, I mean, one of the reasons why we're still bullish on what we're doing here is, it's a small country, you know, population-wise. But on the other hand, the three major labels, all with headquarters in the U.S., are global. You know, Universal, Sony, and Warner. They all are committed to lowering their carbon footprint. In fact, in November 2023, when, you know, myself and my business partners first started seriously thinking about this project, the three majors started something called the Music Industry Climate Collective. Okay. And it was basically they put targets on how they can do, you know, how can they be good environmental citizens. That to date has been more focused on live concerts and touring. So they're looking for solutions such as ours. I've already had one meeting with Universal's Senior Vice President of Sustainability.
Oh, perfect.
So we're hoping that we think it's really going to be artist-driven, that the A-list people are going to basically say, look, this is what we want to do.
Yeah. I know. I wanted to talk so much about your move to Iceland because I read you have a kind of a blog you do on Medium, and you your videos are followed and reshared by Jack White and all these things. Like everything you do here seems to be bigger than life, but we're kind of going along on the discussion of vinyl, which is probably more important anyway. I just enjoy your Icelandic writing, but I just wanted to ask what the first records you hope to press in Keflavik will be. Do you have a dream top three?
Yeah, actually. So our second meeting was with Siggy's Balderson from the Sugar Cubes.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I heard one of these plant-based records was on the Iceland Music Stereo.
Okay.
And I was like, this is even better than I thought. So Siggy's like listening to the same thing I am, and he says, I think you guys are going to be very successful. Mm-hmm. So then Siggy says, I'm going to be in New York next month. Do you want to meet up? So I said, yeah, of course. So at that meeting, I said to him, you know, on the second Sugar Cubes album, there's a song called Dear Plastic. And Björk is complaining about all kinds of plastic. Doesn't say PVC, but comes pretty close to it. And I said, I want that to be one of our first records that we press. So he said, that's brilliant. I'll talk to my former bandmates. And as far as I know, they know about it. And it's now in the hands of Björk's manager. Basically, Björk has a producer in mind to remix it. So it's like a new type of product. So that's high up on the list.
That's terrific.
Yeah. And then there's another, you know, concert that we'd like to get that unreleased type of thing. Maybe I shouldn't say anymore because I don't want competition on that.
Wow.
Yeah. But we're also, you know, going to do research about what are the most beloved out-of-print records in Iceland that, you know, have a good shot at getting commercial.
It'd be nice to get some of those old Keflavik bands on.
Some of those, there are a few things from the early 80s that were never reissued.
Yeah.
For various reasons. I guess, I mean, that's a longer discussion, but there's stuff out there. I mean, sometimes there is like, you know, what it hasn't been reissued is because like it's not that universally sought after, but that's not always the case.
We can't do a Hjalmar reissue?
You could probably do a Hilma reissue.
Right, that's the beloved.
That's one of the beloved from this century, from Keflavík.
Yeah.
There is Hljómar are from Keflavík, and nominally you could say Trúbrot is from Keflavík.
Trúbrot.
Yeah.
The one out.
But I think most of those have been reissued in some form.
Sorry, we're just going down the Keflavík rabbit hole, but
the Detroit
the
rabbit
musicians from Keflavík used to dominate, and people would go up just to see their house. I remember going with Ragnar Kjartans to see the Trúbrot.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, where Rune
bassist.
Juliusson, the bassist, lived. Yeah,
Rune
he had a studio
Juliusson.
down there called Gemstedt. Yeah.
And we would, they're royalty here. So you're establishing a record plant. In rich earth.
In what we call the birthplace of rock and roll in Iceland, because of the closeness to the US base down there. So that's kind of where it all started with those bands.
I also be remiss not to mention, we found out that there was somebody else thinking about building a record factory, local person, musician. So we put two and two together and found out it was J.B. Bergson, who was the guitar player in the Plastic Street Boys. Pink Street Boys.
Oh, yeah.
Pink Street Boys.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, wow.
Pink Street Boys. And then JB actually sent me, they were on the cover of Grapevine.
Oh, yeah.
So, and the record was released by 12 Tonar, in fact. So he was a little embarrassed. He was here during the, he's a man of few words.
Oh, okay. Well,
but I'd be remiss not to mention JB. And so he and I are the two Icelandic-based partners, founding partners in this business, and we're now raising money. The right people actually attended the press conference.
Yeah.
And my LinkedIn is just lighting up in terms of people checking it out and things like that. So I have a lot of follow up to do.
Fantastic.
Good to hear.
So we're looking forward to actually responsible vinyl coming from Iceland.
Yeah, that would be terrific.
Until then, I really recommend. We try to do our own writing, but Larry Jaffee does fantastic writing about the experience of moving to Iceland. I think the enthusiasm is infectious.
It's actually been very inspiring. In fact, last night I finished a piece about. I don't really watch much television here. My apartment was fully furnished, and I think the Norse gods looked down on me because it was the only apartment I needed to look at. It was exactly the type of thing I was looking for, and it was about roughly the same amount of money I was spending in Upper Manhattan. This is great. And I had rented a car and was prepared to drive around for 2 weeks trying to find the place, and I didn't have to do that. And the landlord actually said to me, he had 70 applications. He read my, cover letter. He said, I don't want to meet anybody else.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And then this is what a small world this place is. JB's father is friends with my landlord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. Of course.
Who would know? Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna run into more of that. It doesn't stop.
Well, we should conclude because we could go on forever.
Yeah.
But
I'll do the honors, I guess.
Please.
Thank you, Larry, for dropping in. And thank you, everybody, for listening or watching. We've given you some pointers about what to check out. So check out Larry's blog. Is it the Substack? No, what? Medium thing? You should maybe give us
it's Medium, yeah. I'm listed as capital LS, which is for my middle name, and Jaffee with lowercase s and lowercase j, 2 F's and 2 E's.
Yeah.
And then it's thermalbeats.is?
It's Thermal Beets Records. The URL.
Yeah.
Thermalbeats.is. We still have to put up a proper website, but that's a link tree that basically, some of the things. We have to actually update that with some of the new
This actually reminds me of a business idea I had because it's Beets, B-E-E-T. So I was thinking of starting like a children's music band that only plays really obnoxious big band music as though it were R&B but completely sexless, and I would call it the Beatles. But we would spell it like the because I hate the Beatles, so I was just kind of, but I was saying, you know, we could spell it like the vegetable, you know, the beets.
Well, we had some internal discussion, by the way, to spell it like the Beatles.
Like the Beatles.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And I was the one that pushed for the green bucket. I basically said, look, you know, and I worked as a copywriter for an advertising agency for about 6 months. And I was like, you got a name, you have to communicate what the name is. And the thermal's the geothermal, right? And the beets are the sugar beets.
Yeah,
and
please thank you, God, for not doing that.
Yeah.
I hate the Beatles, and any BEAT would have just
Well, I mean,
put my head through the
like,
screen.
I think you're saying like accurately that it would just be confusing, right?
Also, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard with names when you kind of try to be too smart for your own good. In a sense. Yeah.
Icelanders love puns, you'll find out, especially English language puns.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, Siggy from the Sugar Cubes thought it was a funny, silly name, as he said.
Very good. Well, I look
Perfect.
forward to the latest Sugar Cubes vinyl out hopefully at some point soon.
Yes.
And just
Made from beet sugar.
Yeah, and just good luck with setting up and getting ready to go.
Thank you.
Thank you for dropping in again.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.